A man finds himself stranded on a deserted island. Starving, he attempts to start a fire by friction. He tries using some scraps of paper with a wooden stick on a plank, but despite his efforts fails to produce even a spark. Switching from paper to dry grass, he rubs vigorously, but the stick breaks and cuts his hand, leading to a breakdown. After venting his frustration, he picks up a volleyball, draws a face on it with his palm, names it, and it becomes his only friend on the island. With the volleyball by his side, he tries again with a forked stick to start a fire. Soon the dry grass produces smoke, and after a few breaths he successfully ignites a fire. Celebrating this small victory against the backdrop of the vast ocean marks his happiest moment since being stranded. But how did he end up here? His name is Chuck, a workaholic and manager at a courier company, tasked with delivering packages worldwide. On Christmas Eve, he promises his girlfriend to finish his deliveries and then proceed with their wedding plans. Hurriedly, he boards a plane, cherishing a pocket watch his girlfriend gave him, unaware it would become his beacon of hope. Shortly after takeoff, the plane encounters a thunderstorm and explodes, plunging from the sky into the ocean. Chuck grabs a life-saving device as water floods the cabin, and he's propelled to the surface by the life raft's buoyancy. Struggling onto the life raft and clutching its ropes, he witnesses the plane sink, his first terrifying encounter with the sea's might. When he awakes, he finds himself on a deserted island, with only a damaged pager and the pocket watch from his girlfriend. He calls for help, but only the endless waves respond. Drawing a distress signal in the sand, he hopes for rescue. Using the life raft, he constructs a makeshift shelter, staring at the boundless sea, lost and confused. The next day, he discovers that the tide has erased most of his distress signal. Resigned, he gathers large logs to recreate it. Meanwhile, he collects scattered parcels, hoping to eventually return them to their owners. Suddenly, a strange noise from the woods catches his attention. It turns out to be coconuts, a sign that hope is never completely lost. He tries breaking one against a wall, but the coconut is too hard. Resorting to stones, he smashes one against the coconut, which breaks the stone but leaves a sharp edge perfect for cutting. After much effort, he finally enjoys the sweet coconut water. Deciding to explore, he aims to climb to the peak to understand his location. Having lost his shoes in the crash, his feet suffer cuts from sharp rocks. With no other option, he wraps his feet with his trousers and continues towards the peak. Upon reaching the summit, he realizes the island is entirely surrounded by waves, making escape seem nearly impossible. It's then he spots what appears to be a person floating in the sea. Could there be another survivor? Rushing over, he discovers it's actually a deceased colleague. Grief-stricken, he drags the body ashore, takes the shoes, which are slightly small but manageable after some adjustments, and finds a barely functional flashlight. He buries his colleague, doing all he can under the circumstances. At night, he gazes at his girlfriend's photo, drifting into sleep amidst overwhelming longing. Days pass and he adapts to island life, collecting dew with coconut shells for water and attempting to fish, though unsuccessfully. One night, he notices a flickering light at sea, a ship. He signals desperately with his flashlight, but the distance is too great and the ship passes by unnoticed. Yet, with hope seemingly within reach, he can't easily give up. At dawn, he sets out on the life raft to signal for help, but massive waves surround the island, and a giant wave capsizes him, puncturing the raft and injuring his leg. Injured and defeated, he returns to camp. In despair, he decides to open the parcels. The first contains videotapes, the next a divorce agreement, followed by a soccer ball, roller skates, and a mesh skirt. Hesitant to open the last package adorned with wings, he feels a glimmer of hope and decides to save it. Using the roller skates to open coconuts and the skirt as a fishing net, he manages to catch small fish, but raw fish isn't as satisfying. 4 years pass and even his only friend, the volleyball named Wilson, is in tatters. Awakened by a noise, he discovers a plastic sheet, which inspires him to build a sailboat. Without hesitation, he fashions a raft from suitable logs and bark ropes. Needing more rope, he retrieves the one he'd once intended for suicide, now his last hope. Soon, the raft is ready. Noticing a change in the wind, Chuck launches the raft with the volleyball and the unopened package. Despite rough seas, he deploys the makeshift sail and successfully navigates past the towering waves. Looking back at the island where he'd suffered for 4 years, Chuck begins his oceanic drift. He collects rainwater with coconuts and fishes for food. A storm blows away his sail, and he loses consciousness. When he awakens, he finds the volleyball drifting away. Despite his desperate attempt to save it, he watches helplessly as it floats out of reach. Lying on the raft, heartbroken and without hope, he discards his oar. After an indeterminate time on the brink of death, a cargo ship appears, leading to his rescue. The courier company holds a reception in his honor, and his story captures global attention. Yet all he wants is to see his girlfriend Kelly. When he finally finds her, he discovers she is married and has a lovely daughter. It's then he realizes he has lost her for good. He returns the pocket watch Kelly gave him, and as she sees its rusted surface, she understands the depth of his love for her. She then takes Chuck to the garage where his car remains untouched, a symbol of a past they can no longer return to. Chuck drives away, but Kelly, overwhelmed by emotion, calls out to him. He comes back and in the pouring rain they share a passionate kiss. Kelly gets into the car, wanting to leave with Chuck, but he tells her she needs to go home. This moment snaps her back to reality, and Chuck drives her back to her house. Soon after, Chuck delivers the last package. Finding no one home, he leaves a note saying, "This package saved my life." At a crossroads, a woman offers help, thinking he's lost. Seeing the wings on the back of her vehicle, Chuck realizes she's the owner of the unopened package, bringing his journey full circle. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this.